There will come a time in your life when the mirror can no longer lie to you. A moment when you no longer rush to your reflection seeking approval, validation, or some borrowed beauty reflected back from the gaze of someone else. A moment when the echo of all your chasing will meet the silence of your soul, and in that silence you'll remember you've been seeking in the wrong direction all along. You weren't meant to beg for love. You were born to be it. Love, in its truest form, has never been something to earn or plead for. It is not something that gets traded, bartered, or handed out by someone else like a reward. It is not measured by attention or withheld like punishment. Love is not a performance. It is not a negotiation. It is your origin. It is your essence. It is what you are, beneath the noise, beyond the past, before the wounds were even named. You are not missing love. You are missing the awareness that it has always been within you. Every time you search for it in someone else's approval, you abandon the infinite source already pulsing quietly in your own heart. Every time you begged for someone to stay, you forgot that no one leaves you but your own belief, that you needed them to complete you. No one can abandon you except the version of yourself that was never truly you. We live in a world obsessed with finding the one. But what if the one you were meant to find was yourself? Not the version shaped by society, not the identity patched together from rejection, comparison, and shame, but the soul underneath the timeless being who came into this life whole, radiant, and completely free. The real tragedy is not that others fail to love us. The real tragedy is when we fail to remember that we never needed them to. Your soul did not incarnate to earn love. Your soul came to express it. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to awaken to the truth that you were never unchosen in the first place. There is nothing to prove, nothing to strive for. You don't need to impress, seduce, or convince anyone of your worth, because your worth is not a question. It is the answer. It is the constant. It is the silent light that has never left you. So why do we beg? Why do we lower our voice, dim our light, twist ourselves into shapes just to be accepted? It is because somewhere along the way we were taught to believe that love is conditional, that it is scarce, that it must be earned by pleasing, performing, or pretending. And in doing so, we abandoned our own power. We handed our divine worth over to the fickle opinions of the world, forgetting that no one can truly love you until you love yourself enough to stop seeking their permission to exist. To beg for love is to forget who you are. It is to kneel before illusions and ask them to define you. It is to place your sacred identity into the hands of someone else's broken perception. And let me be clear, no matter how loving someone else may be, they cannot give you what you've denied yourself. Even the purest love cannot fill a soul that has become a stranger to itself. You cannot drink from someone else's cup and expect it to quench the thirst of your own inner emptiness. That thirst must be met at the well of your own soul. Healing begins the moment you stop outsourcing your self-worth. The moment you stop performing for love like a child on a stage and instead sit quietly with yourself and ask, what am I still trying to earn that was already mine when I arrived? What am I still chasing that I've never actually lost? Who taught me that love had to come from out there? You see, every time you choose yourself truly, wholly, unapologetically, you are no longer asking others to do what you are now doing for yourself. And when that happens, something powerful is set in motion. The love you give yourself becomes a frequency, a signal, a divine mirror. And everything in the universe begins to reflect that vibration back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. You stopped begging, you started being. Being love is very different than seeking love. When you are being love, you are no longer trying to extract it from others. You are radiating it from your center. You are becoming the source. And the irony of this shift is that the very love you once chased begins to find you Naturally, effortlessly, not because you finally became enough, but because you finally stopped trying to prove that you weren't. There are no conditions to divine love. It doesn't ask for credentials. It doesn't check your history. It doesn't care about the mistakes you've made or the scars you carry. In fact, it whispers, come exactly as you are. You've always been enough. And if that voice has grown faint in your life, it's not because it left, it's because you stopped listening. You started tuning in to the loud noise of the world instead of the quiet truth of the soul. But that voice, that sacred whisper of wholeness, it's still there, beneath the pain, beneath the story, beneath the masks and roles and desperate attempts to be loved. It's waiting for you to return to yourself, to stop performing and start remembering, to stop begging and start becoming, to stop chasing and finally rest in the love that never left. Let this be the moment you return to your own heart. Not as a concept, not as an affirmation, but as a lived experience. Let this be the breath where you stop negotiating your worth and start honoring your divinity. You are not the broken pieces someone walked away from. You are not the rejection that stung or the silence that haunted you. You are the soul who survived, the one who still believes even after everything in love. And that belief, it's not naive, it's sacred. It means you haven't given up on the truth. It means you are still connected to your source, no matter how distant you felt. So do not mourn the love that didn't stay. Celebrate the wisdom it left behind. Do not mourn the ones who couldn't see you. Honor the clarity they gave you. Every closed door was a redirection. Every unanswered call was an invitation to call yourself home. And perhaps the most tender truth of all is this: you don't need to be healed before you are worthy of love. You don't need to be finished to be held. You don't need to be perfect to be embraced. You simply need to be present with yourself, to stop abandoning yourself emotionally every time discomfort rises, to sit beside your own wounds and not treat them like problems to be fixed, but like stories waiting to be understood. That is how you begin to give yourself the love you've been begging others to give you. Not with force, not with performance, but with presence. Presence is the medicine the soul has been craving. Not attention, not validation, not another text from someone whose love is a currency of confusion. What you're yearning for is to feel at home inside your own being, to walk into the rooms of your heart and not feel like a trespasser, to no longer flinch from your own gaze. When you choose to become emotionally present with yourself, when you say, I see you, I hear you, I won't leave you, that is when the begging ends. Because you are no longer empty, you are finally home. And when you are home within, the world stops feeling like a battlefield. People stop being enemies or saviors. They just become mirrors. And you begin to recognize that the ones who withheld their love were simply reflecting the love you had not yet fully claimed for yourself. They weren't the source of your pain. They were the spotlight on your hidden beliefs. The real ache was never their rejection. It was your own silent agreement that you deserved it. You do not deserve crumbs. You do not deserve to be almost loved, nearly chosen, conditionally embraced. The love you give yourself must be a feast, not a ration. It must be unconditional, not because you've never faltered, but because your soul has never ceased to be whole. The ego is the one that counts flaws and keeps score. But your soul, it only knows how to love without hesitation. It only knows how to pour, not barter. And when you align with that part of yourself, you stop participating in relationships that require you to shrink in order to stay. To give yourself love is to reclaim your spiritual authorship. It is to take the pen back from the hands of fear and begin rewriting the script you've been performing. A script that said you had to earn your place. That said you were lovable only when quiet, only when pretty, only when small, only when useful. But the soul doesn't work that way. The soul says, you are loved when you are messy. You are loved when you're lost. You are loved when you forget. You are loved, period. And that period is everything. It is the end of the search. It is the exhale after years of holding your breath. It is the stillness that returns when the storm of self-rejection finally passes. Because all the chasing, all the pleasing, all the pretending, it was never love. It was survival. It was the desperate strategy of a soul that forgot it was already whole. But once you remember, once you taste the peace of no longer needing to be anyone but who you are, you will wonder why you ever searched anywhere else. There is no healing more powerful than becoming your own safe place. No relationship more sacred than the one you nurture with yourself. Not out of ego, but out of devotion. Not out of isolation, but out of integration. When you hold space for yourself, the world holds space for you. When you stop abandoning your own needs, you stop tolerating the emotional starvation that once felt normal. And what once felt like love, the highs, the lows, the confusion will no longer move you. Because truth is quiet, love is calm, and you will have become both. And it is from this state of inner union that you begin to attract a new kind of relationship, not based on dependency, not fueled by fear, not designed to fill your emptiness, but one that mirrors the wholeness you've cultivated. One that doesn't complete you, but complements you. One that doesn't distract from your healing, but dances with it. And until you've met yourself in that way, every connection will be a test of your worth rather than a celebration of your being. So when you find yourself begging, stop, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I trying to get that I am not giving? What story have I resurrected that says I must chase to be cherished? And in that moment, forgive yourself. Forgive the years you spent knocking on closed doors. Forgive the times you whispered, please love me, to people who didn't even know how to love themselves. Forgive the inner child who didn't know better. She was only doing what she thought was required to survive. But now you know better. And with knowing comes freedom. With freedom comes responsibility. The responsibility to choose yourself, not in defiance of others, but in remembrance of your truth. You are not here to be rescued. You are here to be revealed. You are not incomplete. You are in the process of unbecoming everything that taught you otherwise. The journey was never about finding love. It was about remembering that you are it. There is a softness that returns when you stop begging, a peace that rises when you let go of the need to be needed. It doesn't mean you stop loving others. It means you love them from fullness, not from hunger, from overflow, not from lack. You become the tree that no longer chases the rain because you've discovered the river within. You stop waiting for someone else to come and water your roots. You begin to bloom from the inside out. And this inner bloom cannot be undone by rejection. It does not wither when others walk away. Because it is not fed by attention. It is not sustained by performance. It is nourished by presence, self-compassion, and divine truth. This kind of love is immune to drama, immune to manipulation, immune to the games that once held you captive. Because once you have met yourself in your own heart, no counterfeit connection can satisfy you again. Let the ache remind you, not of what you've lost, but of what you are ready to claim. Let the loneliness guide you, not to desperation, but to deeper intimacy with yourself. Every longing is a messenger. Every trigger, a teacher. Every disappointment, an initiation. They are not signs that love has left you. They are signs that your soul is calling you back. Back to the place where love is not earned, but embodied. Keep breathing with this rhythm of remembrance. Let each breath be a prayer. I am worthy. I am whole. I am already love. Let that be the mantra that rewrites your story. Not because you're trying to convince yourself, but because deep down you already know. You've always known. It's just that now you're ready to live it. And now As you settle into this sacred remembrance, something profound begins to shift inside you. Not loud, not sudden, but as gentle as a sunrise washing away the long night. You begin to see that every unmet expectation, every heartbreak, every silence that once screamed abandonment was never about them. It was always the universe whispering, "Return to yourself. They cannot give you what you are still withholding from your own heart." And in that holy returning, you start to listen differently. You begin to hear the sound of your soul, not the noise of your fears, not the echoes of your childhood pain, but the quiet, unshakable voice of your eternal self. The voice that doesn't yell, but guides. The voice that says, you don't need to chase them, you need to find you. You don't need more attention, you need more alignment. And when you begin to trust that voice more than the fear, more than the history, more than the wounds, you stop clinging to what was never meant to stay. You see, love is not something to hoard. It's something to become. And becoming it means you have to surrender your addiction to being chosen. It means you have to lay down your fear that being alone means being unworthy. Solitude is not emptiness. It's sacred space. It's the inner temple where your truest self finally speaks uninterrupted. And in that space, there is no desperation, only devotion. No groveling, only grace. You begin to notice that your peace no longer flinches in someone else's absence. That your joy no longer rises and falls with how much affection they offer. You become unshakable, not because you've hardened, but because you've healed. You've rooted yourself in truth so deep that the winds of rejection no longer uproot your spirit. You walk away from what doesn't align, not in anger, but in reverence. Because now you love yourself too much to remain where your soul is shrinking. And this is when the universe begins to meet you differently. Not because it changed, but because you did. You raised your vibration from, "Please choose me," to, "I choose me." From, "I hope I'm enough for them," to, "I am enough." And they are either aligned or not. And the irony is, the more you no longer need to be loved in a certain way, the more love flows to you in the purest ways. Not because you demanded it, but because you've become it. This is the divine law of frequency. You attract what you embody. When you vibrate from fullness, you repel what drains you and magnetize what uplifts you. And love, real love, cannot resist a soul who no longer begs. Because begging is the energy of separation. It says, "You are my source." But love, real, divine, conscious love, is found in the energy of union. It says, "I am my source, and in that I can meet you as a whole being." You no longer need to be rescued. You are the rescue. You no longer need to be validated. You are the validation. You no longer need to be seen by another in order to see yourself. This is freedom. This is emotional sovereignty. This is what happens when you stop looking outward and begin living inward. When you stop chasing illusions and start anchoring in your own sacred truth. And in this truth, you will walk into rooms differently. You'll speak without shrinking. You'll love without losing yourself. You'll hold space for others without abandoning your own. You will no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You will no longer interpret mixed signals as a challenge to be deciphered. You will simply recognize misalignment and walk away, not from ego, but from clarity. You will no longer fear being alone. Because now you understand, being alone with your soul is the most holy company you'll ever keep. The silence is not a void, it's a doorway. A portal back to your presence, and in that presence, miracles begin to unfold. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you are no longer living from a fractured place. You are living from essence. Let your life become an offering, not to win love, but to express it. Let your joy be unconditional. Let your boundaries be sacred. Let your standards be written in light, not in desperation. You are not hard to love. You are hard to manipulate. You are not intimidating. You are simply no longer abandoning yourself for the sake of being chosen. And that is what makes your energy unshakable, not because you are guarded, but because you are finally grounded. And when the past comes knocking, and it will, you don't need to answer with fear. You can open the door with grace and say, I no longer live there. When the old patterns whisper, you are too much, too difficult, too this or that, you'll respond, I am exactly as I am meant to be, and I am not for shrinking anymore. You'll begin to carry yourself like someone who knows the divine lives within them, because it does. Then let us now complete the journey, not by ending it, but by coming home to where it always began, within you. There is a kind of peace that doesn't arrive like lightning, but like the soft return of your own breath. It doesn't scream or demand applause. It simply settles in deep, sacred, and certain. That peace is what happens when you stop trying to earn your place on this earth. When you stop performing for love that was never meant to be bartered in the first place. When you stop trying to become lovable and realize you already are. You are not a project. You are not an open wound to be endlessly patched up by others. You are not a mistake waiting to be corrected by someone else's approval. You are a living miracle, the breath of God made visible in human form. And the moment you reclaim that truth, the moment you stand in it, not as a concept, but as an embodied reality, you stop begging for love because you finally remember that love was never outside of you. Let this moment be a resurrection. Let it be the moment your old story dies, the story that said you had to chase, perform, or be chosen to matter. Let it be the moment you stop searching for someone else to see your light and instead become the one who holds it with reverence. You no longer need to plead for recognition. You simply need to recognize yourself. You are not here to be filled. You are here to overflow. You are not here to be defined by someone's affection. You are here to radiate your own. You are not here to shrink in the presence of others. You are here to expand in the presence of truth. And truth is this: you were never broken. You were becoming. You were never too much. You were overflowing. You were never hard to love. You were waiting to love yourself first. You have not failed because someone walked away. You have awakened. You have remembered. And in this remembrance, you no longer settle for scraps. You no longer distort yourself to fit the mold of another's limited vision. You become the vessel of love that pours without needing to be refilled by others. Because you have tapped into the infinite well within the source, the silence, the sacred center of your being. And yes, love may still arrive from others. In fact, it will. But it will not arrive because you begged for it. It will arrive because you no longer did, because you aligned, because you embodied, because you finally surrendered the need to be completed, and in doing so, became whole. This is the power of spiritual self-love. It does not isolate you. It connects you to everything. It does not harden you. It frees you. It does not make you superior. It makes you true. When you walk in this kind of love, you become an invitation not for people to fix you, but to meet you as they are. You stop searching for the one and start becoming the one for yourself. And in doing so, you become a mirror for others to remember themselves too. That is the ripple of self-love. It is not selfish. It is sacred. It is not indulgent. It is awakening. You teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And the world begins to respond not to your words, but to your frequency. That frequency says, I am enough. I am whole. I am no longer available for anything less than truth. And the truth is, you no longer chase what you are, you embody it. You no longer explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer try to resurrect connections that were assignments, not destinies. You no longer suffer for the sake of keeping others comfortable. You rise, you rest, you remember. And as you remember, let this be your prayer, not a plea, but a proclamation. I release the story that I must earn love. I release the lie that I am only worthy when needed. I release the identity that was shaped by rejection. I return to my soul. I return to my truth. I return to the knowing that I am love itself. From this day forward, may you walk not in search of love, but in the radiance of it. May you no longer settle for connections that cost you your peace. May you become the sanctuary you once searched for. And may you always remember, the love you were begging for was never in their hands. It was always in yours. And so it is. And so you are. You wake up before the sun, the alarm louder than your intuition. Your feet hit the floor before your spirit even stirs. You move through your day like a ghost disguised in productivity. A flurry of emails, traffic, notifications, obligations, all of it stitched together like a well-rehearsed illusion. But have you truly awakened? Or are you merely moving? There is a difference between motion and meaning, between activity and aliveness. The world will applaud your exhaustion. It will celebrate your hustle. It will reward your burnout with hollow titles and temporary applause. But deep within, your soul will whisper, this isn't why you came. You weren't born to check boxes. You weren't sent here to live in loops. You came as a divine spark, not a mechanical cog. You came to feel, to grow, to listen to the invisible melody of your own becoming, not to perform an endless dance choreographed by the expectations of others. Life isn't something to conquer. It's something to merge with. And yet, we confuse the buzz for bliss. We wear our calendars like armor. We equate urgency with importance. We say, I'm busy, as if it's a badge of worth. But busy doesn't mean present. Busy doesn't mean connected. Busy doesn't mean awake. It just means occupied, and often occupied by things that are not aligned with our soul's assignment. You could spend your whole life moving at full speed toward the wrong destination. And in the end, you'll realize that being constantly in motion never made you feel more alive. It just made you forget how to be still. Stillness is not laziness. It is the pulse of the eternal. It is the sacred space where the divine reminds you of who you are beneath all your roles. The one who watches, the one who knows, the one who doesn't need to do anything to be worthy of everything. You are not alive because you are moving. You are alive because you are aware. Alive because you are connected. Alive because you are aligned with something deeper than what the world sees. Let go of the illusion that your worth is measured in metrics. You are not a task. You are not a title. You are not your inbox. You are a sacred presence wrapped in skin and breath here for a brief moment in eternity to remember one thing, that you are already whole. And when you return to that knowing, not in theory, but in your bones, your life stops being a performance and becomes a prayer. Now take a breath. Not a shallow breath stolen between obligations, but a deep breath given to yourself as a gift. Let that breath remind you that the same force that makes flowers bloom without stress and stars burn without panic is the same force that lives within you. This moment right here is the doorway. You don't need to do more to walk through it. You just need to stop running from it. You see, aliveness is not something you chase. It's something you return to. It has always been there, under the noise, beneath the striving, like a still lake hidden beneath the fog of your to-do list. And the fog is not real. It only appears solid because you've stared at it too long. But one breath, one sacred pause can begin to part it. We have been taught to outrun ourselves, to equate ambition with purpose, to believe that busyness is a substitute for meaning, but there is no magic in checking off every box if the box of your soul remains unopened. You can have a full schedule and still feel empty. You can hit every deadline and still miss your life because your spirit does not thrive on productivity, it thrives on presence. The quiet knowing that nothing more is needed in this moment except your awareness, not the awareness that judges or calculates or measures, but the awareness that watches with loving detachment. The awareness that simply says, I am. Have you forgotten that your being is enough? That your breath, your presence, your light, these are sacred offerings, not because they earn you something, but because they are the reflection of the divine expressing itself through you. You don't need to manufacture meaning. You are meaning. Yet how many days slip by where your eyes are open, but you are not seeing? Your ears are filled with noise, but you are not hearing? Your body is moving, but your spirit is sitting in the back seat, silent, waiting for you to notice that you've left yourself behind. We are not here to race. We are not here to impress. We are not here to dominate the clock or prove our worth through exhaustion. We are here to remember, to re-enter the sacred rhythm that does not rush. The trees do not sprint to grow. The oceans do not strive to be majestic. The moon does not worry about being seen. And yet all of these are miracles, precisely because they are simply being what they are. Why should it be different for you? You too are part of that same divine rhythm. You too are a miracle, even when you forget, even when you doubt, even when the world tells you to keep running, to keep pushing, to keep proving. But what if the most radical thing you could do is slow down? Not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Because you've realized that rushing through your life is not the same as living it. There's a pulse inside you that is older than time, a frequency that cannot be heard with the ears, but can be felt with the soul. It is the voice of the infinite saying, be still, be present, be free. And when you hear that voice, not as an idea, but as an experience, your whole life shifts. Because the moment you return to presence, you return to power. Not the kind of power that controls others, the kind of power that liberates you. Can you feel it now? That gentle truth rising beneath the noise, the subtle hum of your own aliveness reminding you that you were never meant to live in fragments, half here, half elsewhere. You were never meant to scatter your energy chasing things that do not feed your soul. You are meant to be whole. And wholeness is not achieved through more doing, it's revealed through more being. You don't become more alive by adding to your schedule. You become more alive by subtracting the distractions that numb your awareness. So take inventory, not of your tasks, but of your truth. Ask yourself, what am I busy with? And does it reflect what I value? Or have I simply inherited a script written by others, repeated by culture, accepted by default? You are not obligated to continue performing a life that exhausts your spirit. You are allowed to step off the treadmill. You are allowed to stop chasing, stop proving, stop explaining. You are allowed to live in rhythm with your soul, not in reaction to the noise. It is not selfish to reclaim your peace. It is sacred. Because every moment you live in alignment, you become a lighthouse for others still lost in the storm. And this world needs more lighthouses, not more multitaskers, not more overachievers, but more fully awake souls who choose to live deliberately, love intentionally, and breathe like each inhale is a hymn to the infinite. You are here for that kind of life. And so the illusion of busy begins to crack, not because the world around you slows down, but because something within you begins to awaken. You start to recognize that not every invitation is sacred. Not every demand is yours to fulfill. Not every calendar entry is aligned with the heartbeat of your spirit. You begin to feel it, that gentle ache for simplicity, that quiet hunger to feel alive again, not just useful. What a tragedy it is to live every day and never touch the miracle of the present, to exist inside a perfectly organized life, yet feel emotionally bankrupt, to wear the costume of success while the soul starves for authenticity. But this moment, yes, this one is your permission to stop, to pause long enough to hear the sound of your own existence again. When was the last time you watched the sky stretch across the evening without checking your phone? When was the last time you felt your own breath instead of rushing to the next obligation? When did you last walk through your own life like a guest of the divine, grateful, awake, and in awe? Aliveness is not something that can be achieved through speed. It's something that blooms in slowness, in attention, in wonder. It's not in the constant motion, it's in the sacred still point beneath the motion. That quiet place where nothing needs to be earned, nothing needs to be explained, and everything simply is. The ego will scream at you to hurry. It will tell you that stillness is wasted time, that silence is unproductive, that rest is weakness. But the soul whispers a different message, that silence is sacred space, that stillness is alignment, that presence is power. And that whisper, so easily drowned by noise, is the voice of your original self. The part of you that was never busy, the part of you that didn't need achievement to feel worthy, the part of you that laughed with your whole body and cried without apology, that part of you that knew the world was enchanted long before it taught you to be efficient. You haven't lost that part. It's just been buried beneath layers of expectation and performance. But it's still there, patient, undamaged, eternal, and it will wait as long as it takes for you to remember. To remember that being is not a pause between doing. It is the foundation of life itself. The mystics and sages have echoed this for centuries. Lao Tzu spoke of the wisdom of doing nothing and letting all things be done. Eckhart Tolle reminds us that the present moment is all we ever truly have. Even Christ retreated into stillness, not to escape life, but to embody it more fully. Why? Because the sacred cannot be rushed. The truth cannot be microwaved. The soul cannot be summoned by strategy. The soul is not a task on your list. It is the list, the unchanging essence behind every changing form. And when you return to that truth, your life begins to change without you needing to force it. You begin to make different choices. You say no to things that drain you. You release the compulsion to prove. You find joy in the little moments you once sped past, the way sunlight kisses the wall, the feeling of water on your hands, the sound of wind whispering through leaves. You begin to feel connected again, not because the world slowed down, but because you did. The miracle is not out there. It's here, in this inhale, in this heartbeat, in this still, sacred now. You don't need to climb a mountain to find enlightenment. Sometimes you just need to sit down and actually feel your own life without filters, without distractions, without rushing to the next thing. Because aliveness is not a reward for doing more. It is your natural state uncovered when you finally stop trying to become and instead allow yourself to be. And oh, what a relief it is to no longer need to perform for your own existence. To lay down the armor of busyness and stand naked in the truth of your being, to realize that you are not behind, you are not late, you are not missing anything. You are exactly where you're meant to be the moment you choose to fully be here. Let that truth land in you like rain on dry earth. Let it soften the parts of you that were taught to grind and strive and struggle. Let it baptize the weary places in you that forgot the sound of your own name spoken by the soul. You are not what you do. You are not your resume. You are not your productivity. You are a vessel of the infinite, a conduit of presence, a spark of divine consciousness, temporarily wearing a human disguise. And that means your worth is not up for negotiation. Not with your boss, not with your past, not even with your own mind. Your worth is fixed not because of what you produce, but because of what you are. You are alive, and that is enough. You can fill every hour of your day and still feel empty. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. You can speak 1,000 words and still feel unheard. This is the silent epidemic of the modern soul, a life so full of motion, it forgets how to feel. A life so loud, it drowns the whisper of the divine. And yet the world will call it success. It will reward your performance with applause. It will praise your exhaustion and call it dedication. It will see your absence from yourself and mistake it for achievement. But deep down, you know something sacred has gone missing, something tender, something true. You've been so busy being everything to everyone that you've become a stranger to your own presence. And maybe, just maybe, that ache you feel isn't failure. It's your soul tapping on the inside of your life saying, come home to yourself. Not the self that's been performing, the one underneath. You see, disconnection doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in subtle ways, in the way you scroll to escape, in the way you rush through dinner, in the way you avoid silence because you're afraid of what you'll hear. And beneath all of it, there's a longing not to be busier, but to be real. Real like the wind that doesn't try to impress you. Real like the ocean that doesn't care who's watching. Real like the child who laughs for no reason. That kind of real. And here's the miracle, it's still within you. Buried, maybe. Ignored, possibly. But gone? Never. That flame still flickers beneath your schedule, beneath your strategy, beneath your obligations. And all it takes to fan it into fire again is a single moment of honesty, a single breath of truth. Right now, just ask yourself, what would I be doing today if I was fully alive, not just functioning? What would change? What would fall away? And who would I become? Because in that question lies your liberation. Aliveness is not found in how much you do, it's found in how fully you show up in what you're doing. And when your presence is missing, even the most impressive life becomes a hollow performance. You might fool the world. You might even fool your mind. But your soul, it knows. It always knows. The soul doesn't measure in hours or accolades. It doesn't care how many tasks you completed. It wants to know, were you awake for any of it? Did you feel the moment, or did you escape it? Did you inhabit your breath, or just use it as fuel to chase something else? We live in a culture of doing, but you are not a machine. You are a being, a soul pulsing with eternal wisdom, temporarily wrapped in skin and story. And the most radical act of awakening you can commit is to stop running long enough to return to your being. Busyness is seductive because it masks discomfort. If we stay busy enough, we don't have to feel the ache. We don't have to sit with the silence. We don't have to face the truth that much of what we're doing isn't actually nourishing us. We call it productivity, but often it's just avoidance dressed in professionalism. And yet, the ache remains. The ache is holy. The ache is what calls you back. You don't need to fear it. It's not here to punish you. It's here to point you toward what you've forgotten, that you were not created to merely function. You were created to feel, to create, to expand, to love, to be. The soul doesn't rise in the chaos. It rises in the space you give it. So give it space. Let this be your turning point. Let this be the sacred moment where you stop asking, what more can I do? And begin asking, what have I forgotten how to feel? Because to feel fully is to live fully. And to live fully is not about filling every slot in your calendar. It's about opening every cell of your being. This is the invitation. It's always been here. Life is not waiting for you to accomplish more. Life is waiting for you to return home to yourself. The moment you choose presence over pressure, something ancient within you exhales. It's not a moment the world will likely notice, but your soul does. It celebrates, it rejoices, because you've remembered not intellectually, but experientially that life was never supposed to be a race. You've spent so much time striving to be enough, to be seen, to be relevant, and all along, the truth has sat quietly at the center of your being. You are already, all of it, already whole, already sacred, already free. But you've been conditioned to forget and to confuse movement with momentum, reaction with purpose, and speed with growth. But growth does not rush. A tree does not bloom faster by worrying. The seasons do not accelerate themselves through anxiety. The stars do not doubt their shine because they take millions of years to form. And yet here you are, rushing through a single lifetime as if missing a step would be failure. But your soul is not counting steps. It is watching for your return. And each time you pause to listen, to really listen, you step into alignment again. True success is not how much you do, but how deeply you meet the moment that you're in. When you're pouring tea, pour tea. When you're walking, walk with the grace of one who knows they're part of the miracle. When you're with someone you love, be so fully there that time disappears and only love remains. Presence doesn't require effort, it requires surrender. A letting go of needing to manage the outcome. A release of the ego's obsession with performance. A falling into the sacred rhythm of being. And this rhythm is where you came from. Long before you learned to schedule, to measure, to prove, you simply were. You looked at the world with wonder, not with strategy. You approached each moment with curiosity, not control. You woke up alive, not busy. So ask yourself now, who were you before the noise began? Before the labels and obligations and expectations stacked themselves around you like armor? Strip all of it away. And what remains is you, the eternal you. Not the version exhausted by the pursuit of validation, but the soul behind the striving. The stillness that's been waiting underneath every movement, every effort, every breath. And in that stillness, there is peace. Not the peace of escape, but the peace of reunion. The feeling of slipping back into the skin of your own sacredness. The joy of realizing that nothing outside of you can offer what has always lived within. You do not need to chase what you are. You only need to stop long enough to feel it. When you return to your center, time expands. One moment can feel eternal because it is being fully met. Life no longer rushes past you. It begins to bloom around you. And you start to live, not just exist. This is aliveness. This is what you came for. And no title, no paycheck, no accomplishment can match the richness of a life lived from the center of being. You may still go to work. You may still check emails, care for others, plan, prepare, but you will no longer do it from the place of lack. You will do it from fullness, from awareness, from a knowing that you are not your activity, you are the awareness beneath it. You are not a role. You are not a job. You are not a name on a document or a dot on a digital map. You are consciousness expressing itself through form, a moment of God wrapped in a moment of skin. And once you remember this, even the most ordinary moment becomes holy. The way you stir your coffee, the way you look out the window, the way you greet a stranger, all of it begins to glow with purpose, not because it's grand, but because you are present in it. Presence is the portal to all transformation. Nothing needs to be added to you. No more strategies. No more self-improvement tricks. Just presence. Because when you're truly here, the truth reveals itself without force. The peace you were chasing in the future lands in your lap in the now. The love you thought you had to earn begins to arise from within. And the life you thought was waiting for you finally begins. You are not running out of time. You are running away from presence. But the moment you stop, truly stop, time bows to your awareness and eternity enters. So don't just slow down, wake up, peel back the layers of effort and busyness and see what's been here all along. A sacred stillness, a quiet aliveness, a joy that does not depend on circumstance. Because aliveness is not somewhere you arrive, it's who you are when you stop pretending you're anything else. You do not need a bigger life. You need a deeper presence. For so long, we've been conditioned to stretch ourselves outward, to reach, to accumulate, to expand externally. But real expansion doesn't begin outward, it begins inward. It begins the moment you realize that the vastness you seek in the world already exists in the still point of your being. You are not here to collect experiences like trophies. You are here to allow life to pass through you, to let each moment transform you. The sunrise doesn't need to be captured to be sacred. The laughter of your child doesn't need to be shared to be eternal. The tears in your eyes during stillness don't need to be explained. They are all holy, and they are all signs that you are at last alive. This world will try to sell you aliveness. It will package it in destinations and devices and degrees. It will convince you that aliveness is something you can earn through more doing, more striving, more becoming. But nothing you add to yourself will complete you because you were never incomplete. You were simply distracted. And that distraction has cost you more than time. It has cost you presence. It has cost you the most valuable thing you possess, the ability to inhabit the now with your whole heart. Because the moment you truly inhabit the now, you remember the truth that you are already free. And this freedom is not loud. It is not dramatic. It's the quiet realization that you no longer need to keep proving that you belong. It's the moment you stop running and realize that what you were running toward was already within you. It's the moment you give yourself permission to feel your life, not just think about it, not just plan it, but feel it. Feel the weight of your own breath. Feel the stillness beneath the noise. Feel the part of you that was never afraid, never confused, never separate from the divine. That is your true self, unburdened, unhurried, unwavering. You don't have to burn out to earn rest. You don't have to collapse to deserve stillness. You don't have to reach rock bottom to rediscover what's real. You can choose now. You can say, enough. I will not trade my aliveness for approval. I will not sacrifice my soul on the altar of performance. Because the sacred has been whispering your name all along. Not in the chaos, but in the quiet. Not in the rush, but in the pause. Not in the crowd, but in your own heart. And once you hear that whisper, truly hear it, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start listening. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop performing. You start being, and when you begin to be, your life no longer feels like a struggle to maintain, but a miracle to witness. You don't need to add anything. You just need to feel everything. Every breath, every blessing, every moment that you once rushed past. This is not a performance anymore. This is presence. This is what it means to be alive. Not just busy, not just functioning, not just checked in on paper, but wide open to the infinite current of now, awake to the miracle that you exist, that you are breathing, that you are sensing, that you are aware. And from this awareness, a new life begins, not one built from pressure, but one built from peace. You don't need to escape your life. You need to awaken within it. Because your life is not the enemy, forgetting is. The forgetting that you are not here to perform. The forgetting that you are not here to earn. The forgetting that being alive is not a future event, but a present truth waiting to be remembered. You've spent years running on momentum that wasn't rooted in meaning. And now, something within you, something ancient, something tender is asking for truth. Not more input, not more effort, just truth. And here it is. You are already enough, already sacred, already whole. You do not need to do more to be worthy of your own breath. What you need is to pause long enough to feel it, to let it fill you, not as a function, but as a miracle. Because that's what it is, every breath, a miracle, every heartbeat, a reminder that life is not demanding anything from you but your awareness. It's not about slowing down for the sake of slowing down. It's about remembering that the divine never asked you to race, that the soul never signed up for burnout, that your essence has always known the truth. Peace is not at the end of achievement, it's in the stillness behind it. This stillness is not passive, it's not doing nothing. It is the highest act of power to be so rooted in your own presence that the world cannot pull you into its storm. To walk with still feet and an open heart. To move from a place of being, not proving. And from that place you begin to see clearly again. You see that every moment you rushed through was a missed appointment with the sacred. That every time you chose urgency over presence, you left a part of yourself behind. But you don't need to grieve that now. You just need to come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to this moment. Come back to yourself. Because this is what aliveness feels like. Not complicated, not distant, just here. The feeling of your bare feet on the floor, the warmth of light on your skin, the sound of your own laughter, the gentle awareness that nothing needs to be added because everything you've been chasing is already inside you waiting for permission to rise. You do not have to sacrifice your soul to succeed. You do not have to dim your joy to be accepted. You do not have to stay busy to be valuable. The real success is presence. The real wealth is peace. The real freedom is choosing to live on your own terms, slow, awake, whole. And in this moment, this breath, this sacred return you choose to stop measuring your life in output and begin measuring it in depth. You choose to let go of who you were trained to be and become who you were born to be. You choose to no longer trade your aliveness for approval. You choose to stop, to feel, to be, to live. Because just because you're busy doesn't mean you're alive. But now that you've remembered, you are fully, finally, gloriously alive.